Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're jumping into something that I think a lot of parents and students stress about, career planning. Specifically, when should it actually start?
It's a huge question. And the common wisdom, is to wait.
Right. Wait until class 11, maybe even class 12, when college applications are looming.
Yeah.
Let the kid mature a bit.
But the sources we've looked at suggest that's, well, almost a mistake. That waiting actually misses a critical window.
A developmental sweet spot, if you will. And that sweet spot, according to the research, is class 9.
That's our mission for this deep dive. To show you why that period around age 14 is so fundamental. The choices you make then, especially around subjects, they just ripple outwards.
And let's be really clear from the start. This is not about forcing a 14-year-old to pick a job for the rest of their life.
Absolutely not.
The goal is simpler, and I think much more powerful. It's about using this time to build a flexible roadmap, to understand your own strengths, and to cut down on that massive stress and panic we see later on. Okay, so let's get into it. Why class 9? What makes this specific year, this age, so important?
Well, there are two big reasons. The first is structural. In many educational systems, class 9 is the formal start of what's called the secondary stage.
So things are getting more serious.
Exactly. You're moving from general education to something more specialized. We're talking about the 14 to 18 age bracket.
And then there's the developmental side of it.
Right. And this is huge. At 14, a student is going through this massive cognitive and emotional shift.
The classic transition from childhood to adolescence.
It is. And cognitively, they can suddenly handle abstract thought in a way they couldn't before. They start asking, who am I? What do I actually like?
And that new self-awareness runs headfirst into a very real, very high-stakes deadline.
The biggest one, stream selection. This decision science, commerce, arts, or humanities. It happens right after the Class 10 board exams.
So if you start thinking about your career in class 11, you're already behind the curve.
You've missed the boat. That choice is done. It dictates the next 2 years, your college eligibility, everything.
And a mismatch there can be, well, painful to fix.
It's incredibly stressful. That's the main risk we're trying to avoid here. Stream mismatch.
Which happens when the choice isn't based on the student's actual ability.
Precisely. It's based on external noise. Peer pressure is a big one. All my friends are taking commerce.
Or parental pressure. You have to take science to be successful.
And that is a recipe for disinterest, for poor grades, and for that panic we see in class 12 when a student realizes they're on the completely wrong track.
So by starting in class 9, you give them 2 years to explore and confirm a path that's based on data, not just pressure.
And that clarity, that sense of direction, it feeds directly back into their schoolwork. Because suddenly there's a why. They're not just studying trigonometry because they have to. They're studying it because they see how it connects to a future in, say, engineering or data science.
It builds what experts call intrinsic motivation.
It really does. It reframes the entire conversation from, I have to do this, to, I am choosing to build these skills for my future. And performance just skyrockets.
Okay, I get the when, but the how feels tricky. I mean, how do you get a 14-year-old who's probably just trying to fit in to objectively figure out their own strengths?
You're right. You can't just ask them. You need to formalize the process with professional, data-driven tools.
And what does that process look like?
It's basically 3 steps. First, identify your strengths and weaknesses. Second, explore all the options out there, not just the obvious ones. And third, align what you're doing in school with those future goals.
So what's the go-to tool for that first step?
The cornerstone is psychometric assessment. These are scientifically designed tests, not online quizzes, that map out a student's cognitive and behavioral profile.
Felt like a mirror in a way.
A very objective mirror. They show you things about yourself you might not even be aware of.
And what are they actually measuring?
They typically look at 4 key areas. First is aptitude, your natural talent for things like logical reasoning or spatial awareness.
Okay.
Second, your interests. What genuinely fascinates you? Is it technology, the human body, art, business?
Right.
Third is your personality type. Are you an innovator, an organizer, a leader? And fourth, your learning style. Do you learn best by doing, by reading, or by discussing?
That's really thorough. But let me play devil's advocate for a second. Is there a risk of boxing a kid in too early with a test result?
That's a great question, and it's a common concern. A good assessment doesn't give you a single job title and say, this is your life.
It's not a prescription.
No, it's a language. It gives you the data to understand your own tendencies, your natural inclinations. It's a starting point for exploration, not the final word.
And these texts often use a specific framework to organize that data, right? The sources mention one called the RIACOS model.
Yes, that's Holland's model. It's based on what's called trait and factor theory, and it's extremely useful. It basically maps personal traits onto 6 broad career environments.
Can you break down those 6 letters for us?
Of course. R is for realistic. These are the doers. They like hands-on work, tangible things. Think engineers, chefs, athletes.
Okay, R is doer.
R is for investigative. The thinkers.
Yeah.
They're analytical, curious problem solvers. Your scientists, researchers, data analysts.
Got it.
A is for artistic. The creators. They need self-expression, imagination. This is your designers, writers, architects.
Makes sense.
S is for social, the helpers. They're all about interacting with people. Teachers, counselors, nurses.
Okay.
E is for enterprising, the persuaders. They're leaders, risk takers. This points to business, sales, management.
And the last one.
C is for conventional, the organizers. They like structure, data, rules. Think accountants, programmers, quality control specialists.
And the really interesting part is that you're not just one letter. You get a code.
Exactly. You get a unique 3-letter code, like IES, investigative, enterprising, social. And that specific blend tells a much more nuanced story.
And sometimes that story can be a total surprise. Like the example of Ria from our source material.
Oh, Ria's story is a perfect case study. She was completely convinced she had to take science.
Just because that's what everyone says is the smart choice.
Right. But her assessment came back with this completely different profile. Her scores in artistic and social areas were off the charts. Her communication skills were her real superpower.
So she wasn't a bench scientist at heart. She was a storyteller.
And the data gave her the confidence, the permission to see that. She switched her focus to humanities, fell in love with media studies, and now she's thriving on a path toward journalism.
It redirected her from a path of should to a path of am.
That is the power of getting this right and getting it right early.
When you have that kind of clarity so early on, I have to imagine the biggest benefit is just less stress.
Oh, without a doubt. The amount of anxiety that builds up when a student hits class 12 with no plan is just immense.
It's panic mode.
Total panic mode. Because the clock is ticking and the stakes are so high, early planning gives you a roadmap. You know which subjects to focus on, which extracurriculars matter.
You're not just scrambling at the last minute to build a college application.
No, you've been strategically building it for 2 years. And it's a flexible roadmap. This isn't about setting a course in stone.
It's about building a growth mindset.
Exactly. The world of work is changing so fast. You have these new interdisciplinary fields popping up everywhere. Sport psychology, financial analytics. You need the flexibility to pivot.
And you mentioned skills. It's not just about the subjects you study anymore, is it?
No, academic knowledge alone isn't enough. It's the soft skills, critical thinking, communication, adaptability that really set a candidate apart.
And the psychometric profile can help you target which skills to build.
Directly. If your profile is high on enterprising but low on social, you know you need to work on teamwork and communication.
So you join the debate club.
Or a mentorship program. You start intentionally building that muscle long before it shows up on a resume.
You shared some really startling data from the World Economic Forum about how fast the job market is changing.
It's eye-opening. They project that by 2025, something like 92 million jobs will be displaced by technology.
That sounds terrifying.
It does, but here's the other side of it. They also project that 170 million new jobs will be created.
So it's a net gain.
A massive net gain, but those new roles require new skills. And preparing early is what puts a student in a position to actually seize those future-proof opportunities.
Now, we can't end this without talking about the parents. They're a huge part of this equation.
They're absolutely crucial. And the best thing a parent can do is to be open-minded.
To not just push for the traditional doctor, lawyer, engineer path.
Exactly. And to avoid, pushing their own unfulfilled dreams onto their child. The best role for a parent is to be a supportive partner in this data-driven exploration.
So support the process, trust the data, and get professional, unbiased advice.
That partnership student, counselor, and family is the real foundation for success.
So let's wrap this up. If you take one thing away from our deep dive today, it should be this. Class 9 is that sweet spot. It's the moment to get objective data on your aptitude, your personality, and your interests.
It's not about picking a job for life. It's about building a confident foundation so you can make that next big choice stream selection from a place of strength, not fear.
That foundation drives your motivation and ultimately sets you up to succeed in a world that is constantly changing.
And as a final thought, I think it's important for you to remember what the word career even means. We tend to think it just means job.
But it's so much bigger than that.
It really is. A career is your entire path through life. It includes your work, sure, but also your other roles, your leisure, your passions.
You know, that reminds me of that old formula from career development theory, McDaniel's formula.
A beautiful and simple concept. He said C equals W plus L.
Career equals work plus leisure.
Exactly. Real success, real fulfillment isn't just about the job. It's about finding a balance that honors your whole self, the work you do and the life you live outside of it.
And if you start building that roadmap early, based on who you truly are,
You give yourself the very best chance of creating a life where both sides of that equation are deeply, genuinely fulfilling, and that's a goal worth starting on today.